consider this paradox. The most powerful man in the room right now, the man who controls the world's largest economy, commands its most formidable military, and signs executive orders that move global markets, spent years studying a dead emperor, not modern economics, not contemporary leadership theory, not a Harvard Business School playbook. A dead emperor, one who ruled Rome 2,000 years ago, a man who spent his mornings not issuing commands but writing against himself, in private, in the dark, in a journal he never intended anyone to read. And here is what stops most people when they hear this. Donald Trump and Marcus Aurelius appear to have almost nothing in common. One is loud where the other was silent. One court spectacle where the other feared personal glory. One built towers bearing his name. The other refused a military triumph because he believed glory was a distraction from governance. And yet, if you study how Trump makes decisions under maximum pressure, with the most at stake, against the most organized resistance, the Stoic architecture is there. Underneath the noise, underneath the performance, the framework is operating. That is what this video examines, not politics, not opinion. The framework, because the framework works regardless of what you think of the man applying it. And if you lead anything, a company, a team, a capital allocation decision, a negotiation, you need to understand it. Marcus Aurelius was born in 121 AD into a family of minor nobility. He was adopted by Emperor Antoninus Pius at the age of 17, not because he sought power, but because the emperor recognized something in him that the empire would need. He became emperor at 40. He ruled for 19 years. During those 19 years, Rome faced the Antonine Plague, one of the most catastrophic pandemics in ancient recorded history, responsible for the deaths of an estimated 5 million people. He managed multiple military campaigns on the northern frontier against Germanic tribes. He navigated internal political threats, economic strain, and the relentless administrative weight of governing an empire that stretched from Scotland to Mesopotamia. By every historical account available, he handled it with a consistency that historians still find remarkable. He was not naturally calm. He was not gifted with an unshakable temperament. He tells us this himself. In the Meditations, the private philosophical journal he wrote every morning during the last decade of his reign, he writes honestly about the anger he had to manage, the exhaustion of perpetual duty, the constant pull toward comfort, the days when the weight of leadership was almost more than a human being could carry. What he had was not a personality, it was a system, a cognitive operating framework, a set of daily practices, mental disciplines, and philosophical commitments that he applied with the precision and regularity of a surgeon preparing for an operation. That system came from one school of ancient thought, Stoicism. Stoicism was not a religion. It was not therapy. It was not a collection of motivational phrases. It was a practical operating framework specifically designed for people who held power, for people whose decisions had consequences at scale, and who could not afford the luxury of being controlled by their own emotional state. Its central argument was both simple and demanding. You cannot control what happens to you. You can only govern how you respond, and the quality of your response is entirely determined by the quality of your thinking, which must be trained daily, the same way a soldier trains for the conditions of battle. Marcus Aurelius built that training into the first hours of every morning. For 19 years, at the apex of the ancient world's most complex governance structure. And so, it turns out, in a very different era, in a very different way, has someone else. Before we examine the application, we need to understand the framework with precision, because most people have heard of Stoicism, and most people have misunderstood it. The Stoic framework, as practiced by Marcus Aurelius, operates through 4 pillars. He references all 4 consistently across the Meditations. They are not abstract philosophy, they are operational disciplines. The first pillar is the dichotomy of control. Identify, with absolute clarity, what is within your power and what is not. Direct every unit of cognitive and emotional energy toward the former. Release, deliberately and completely, every unit of anxiety attached to the latter. This sounds obvious when stated plainly. Applied consistently under extreme sustained pressure, it is one of the rarest cognitive disciplines in human history. The second pillar is Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditatio of evils. Before you act, map every realistic path to failure, not to paralyze yourself, to prepare yourself. The Stoic practitioner who has imagined failure in full detail before the decision is made is never surprised by it in execution, and therefore never controlled by it. Surprise is the mechanism through which panic enters leadership. The third pillar is the obstacle as opportunity. The phrase, made famous again in our era, "the obstacle is the way," is not a motivational slogan. It is a specific cognitive reframe with operational consequences. When resistance appears, the Stoic does not ask how to remove it. They ask how the resistance itself becomes the mechanism of advancement. The wall is not the problem. The wall is the path. The fourth pillar is the view from above. Step back from the immediate moment, deliberately widen the temporal frame. Ask how this decision will appear from a distance of 5 years, 20 years, from the perspective of history, from the perspective of someone entirely outside the situation. The quality of decisions made from this distance almost always exceeds the quality of decisions made from inside the heat of the immediate moment. These 4 pillars together form what Marcus Aurelius called the inner citadel, the interior fortress of the governed mind, the structure that no external force, no crisis, no opponent, no failure, no public attack can breach, because it was built on the inside. Now, watch these 4 pillars appear in the documented decision pattern of Donald Trump. The first pillar, the dichotomy of control, is the most consistently visible in Trump's documented operational behavior across 4 decades. Throughout his business career, Trump faced a volume of legal challenges, financial setbacks, and public attacks that would have consumed the full cognitive resources of most operators. His corporate bankruptcies, 6 in total across various entities, were used against him continuously, by competitors, by press, by political opponents. What the documented record shows in each case is not a defensive response. It is redirection. The energy that most leaders would spend managing reputation, which was outside his control, was systematically redirected toward the next transaction, the next negotiation, the next position. The dichotomy in operation is not Stoic detachment. It is a precise reallocation of finite cognitive resources away from the uncontrollable and toward the actionable. Aurelius writes in Book 6 of the Meditations, "Never esteem anything as of advantage to you that will make you break your word or lose your self-respect." What he means operationally is this: never allow what others think to become a variable in your own decision-making. That variable is outside the citadel. Leave it there. Trump's acquisition of Mar-a-Lago in 1985 is one of the clearest structural examples in his business history. He purchased a deteriorating estate at a price that reflected its condition, then converted it into a private membership club, transforming the cost of maintaining the property into the revenue mechanism of the property itself. The obstacle became the instrument. The second pillar, Premeditatio Malorum, appears most clearly in Trump's documented approach to negotiation. In The Art of the Deal, Trump describes a discipline that is Stoic in structure without ever using the word. He writes about always identifying before entering any negotiation the worst realistic outcome and deciding in advance whether that outcome is acceptable. If it is acceptable, he enters the negotiation from a position of psychological stability that his counterpart almost never matches. If the worst outcome is not acceptable, he does not enter the negotiation at all. This is Premeditatio Malorum applied to deal-making. It is one of the most powerful negotiating stances available to any operator, because a person who has already made peace with the worst case is functionally unintimidatable. The counterpart's primary leverage, the threat of a bad outcome, does not reach someone who has already processed that outcome and moved forward. Marcus Aurelius used the same discipline for military campaigns and political decisions. Seneca, Aurelius's philosophical predecessor, wrote the definitive description of it in his letters. Let us prepare our minds as if we had come to the very end of life. Let us postpone nothing. Let us balance life's books each day. The third pillar, the obstacle as opportunity, is where the Stoic framework produced perhaps its most dramatic result in a political context. In 2016, every established political institution in the United States organized against Trump's candidacy. The mainstream media opposed it. Senior members of his own party opposed it. Multiple polling models projected a historically significant defeat. The resistance was, by conventional political measurement, overwhelming. What he did, operationally, was reframe the resistance as the argument. Every institution that attacked the candidacy became evidence for the candidacy's central claim, that those institutions had failed the people they claimed to represent. The opposition became the fuel. The obstacle became the vehicle.
Every mark.
This is not political commentary on whether that argument was correct. It is an observation about the cognitive structure of the move. The Stoic does not ask how to remove the wall. They ask what the wall makes possible. The fourth pillar, the view from above, is the most subtle and, in some respects, the most revelatory in the period following the 2020 election. A period of extraordinary legal, political, and personal pressure. Trump's public orientation was consistently projected forward in time, not backward. He spoke consistently in the long frame, historical correction, returning cycles, future vindication. Whether this was conscious Stoic philosophy, instinct, or calculated strategy, the structural posture was identical to what Aurelius describes in the Meditations as the temporal escape hatch, the ability to step outside the immediate moment and reorient toward the longer arc. Aurelius writes, "Confine yourself to the present." Not because the future does not matter, but because the present, the only place where action is possible, is where the inner citadel must operate. The framework does not require your agreement with the man applying it. The framework is the object of study here, and the framework works. You are not a president. You may not be managing billions in capital or navigating the full weight of a democratic political system, but if you lead anything of consequence, a company, a division, a startup, a family, a negotiation, these four pillars have immediate practical application. Here is how to build them. Step 1. Establish a daily cognitive governance practice, not journaling in the self-help sense. Cognitive governance. Every morning before the first meeting, before the first notification, before the first request from anyone else, you write 3 things. What is within my control today? What is outside my control today? And what am I willing to release? And what is the worst realistic outcome of the most consequential decision I face this week? Write it. Name it explicitly. Make intellectual peace with it. Then proceed. Marcus Aurelius did this every morning for 19 years as Emperor of Rome. He did not call it a morning routine. He called it preparation, not for the day's tasks, but for the day's resistance. The preparation was not about optimism. It was about precision. Step 2. Apply the dichotomy of control with ruthless precision to your energy allocation. Map every drain on your attention in the coming week. Categorize each one. Within my control or outside my control? This is a real exercise, not a metaphor. Create 2 columns. Place every active concern into one of them. Everything in the outside my control column should have its cognitive resource allocation reduced by at least 70%, not eliminated, recognized, noted, and removed from active daily processing. The distinction matters. You acknowledge it, you do not carry it. Step 3. Run a pre-mortem on every major decision before you execute it. This is Premeditatio Malorum in a business context, and it is one of the most consistently underused tools in organizational decision-making. Gather your key decision-makers. Assume the decision has already failed, not might fail, has failed. Then ask, what caused the failure? What did we not see? What did we underestimate? This exercise reliably surfaces risks that forward-looking analysis misses, because forward-looking analysis is optimism biased by default. The pre-mortem removes the bias by assuming the outcome before asking the question. Step 4. Build the view from above into your quarterly review structure. At the end of every quarter, review your key decisions, not from the perspective of what happened, but from the perspective of how they will read from a distance of 5 years, not whether they were successful. Whether they were the right decisions given what was known at the time and what was being built toward over the long arc. This quality of review produces strategic thinking that purely reactive quarterly analysis cannot generate, because it asks a different question. Not how did we do, but who are we becoming? These are not abstractions, they are operational disciplines. The leaders who implement them across every industry, at every scale, regardless of their ideology or personality, consistently produce decisions of higher quality under pressure than those who do not. The reason is structural. The Stoic framework does not make you calmer, it makes you more precise. It builds a cognitive infrastructure that does not distort under pressure, because it was specifically designed and daily trained for conditions of pressure. The inner citadel is not a mood, it is a building. And buildings require construction. Marcus Aurelius wrote the Meditations as a private document. He addressed it to himself. He never published it. He never showed it to his court or his generals or his family. He wrote it because he understood that the most important empire he would ever govern was not the one that stretched from Scotland to the Euphrates. It was the 18 inches between stimulus and response, the interior territory. The mind, the greatest leaders throughout history, across every era, every culture, every domain, have arrived at the same conclusion through different paths. The external structures, the companies, the campaigns, the institutions, the legacies, are always downstream of the interior architecture. The quality of the decisions determines the quality of the outcomes, and the quality of the decisions is always, ultimately, a function of what is happening inside the decision maker. The Stoic framework is not secret knowledge. It has been available for 2,000 years. It was available to every person alive during the Roman Empire. It was available during the Renaissance and the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution and every era of human civilization since Zeno first taught in the painted porch in Athens in 300 BC. Most people read about it and find it interesting. A small number of people throughout history and in our own era take it seriously enough to build it into their daily operation, and those people, by any measurable historical standard, become significantly harder to stop. The framework is available to you right now, in the same form that it was available to an emperor managing a plague and 3 wars simultaneously, in the same form that it appears, consciously or structurally, in the operational pattern of one of the most resilient figures in modern political history. Marcus Aurelius built the inner citadel. He governed the ancient world from inside it. He wrote about it every morning in private, never expecting anyone to read it. We are reading it. The question is not whether the framework works. History answered that question. The question is whether you will build it. One video. Every day. Ancient wisdom. Modern power. This is the corporate canon.